Halloween costumes weren't about candy. They were about fooling the dead. By B.R. Wilson, The Wilson Family Lights. Weird facts about Halloween. Some Halloween traditions make perfect sense. Carving pumpkins, lighting bonfires, eating enough candy to make your dentist quietly start shopping for a vacation home with ocean views. But costumes? Those are weird. Not funny weird. Actually weird. Every October, millions of otherwise rational adults voluntarily dress as zombies, witches, skeletons, serial killers, superheroes, giant inflatable dinosaurs, and whatever sleep-deprived fever dream Spirit Halloween managed to unload from a cargo ship this year. Nobody really questions it. We just accept that for roughly 6 weeks every fall, Karen from accounting can arrive at work dressed like a blood-soaked Victorian ghost, and nobody feels compelled to involve human resources. Nobody stops and asks why. We just do it. Which is interesting because the original reason people started wearing costumes on Halloween had absolutely nothing to do with candy, parties, social media photos, or neighborhood contests judged by people who somehow always vote for their cousin's kid. The original reason was considerably darker. The roots go back to the ancient Celts and the festival of Samhain, which marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter. More importantly, they believed it marked the night when the boundary between the living and the dead became dangerously thin. Not symbolically thin, not poetically thin. Thin, as in things from one side could occasionally wander over to the other. For one night each year, the worlds supposedly brushed against one another like two trains passing through heavy fog. Spirits wandered, ghosts crossed over. Things that belonged elsewhere occasionally found themselves here. Now imagine living 2,000 years ago. No electricity, no streetlights, no police, no emergency room, no weather radar, no smartphone, no security camera sending you an alert that the terrifying noise outside is just a raccoon conducting another criminal enterprise against your garbage cans. The sun goes down. The darkness arrives. The wind starts moving through the trees. Something screams in the distance. Maybe it's a wolf. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's something you've never seen before. Maybe it's just your imagination. The problem, of course, is that imagination doesn't always know the difference. People today forget how dark the world used to be. Not the power went out for 20 minutes dark. Real dark. The kind of dark where you can hold your hand 6 inches in front of your face and lose it completely. The kind of dark that makes every snapped twig sound personal. People talk a big game about not believing in monsters. Most of those people have never stood alone in the woods at midnight with nothing but moonlight and bad decisions for company. Frankly, if you dropped half of modern America into that environment for a week, ghost sightings would increase by about 4,000%. Everybody's a skeptic until the forest starts making noises. So the Celts came up with a plan. If spirits were wandering around looking for humans, don't look like a human. Simple. People began wearing animal skins, masks, antlers, and frightening disguises. The idea was that wandering spirits would mistake them for something else and move on. It was supernatural camouflage. The ancient equivalent of putting on sunglasses at Walmart because you spotted somebody you owe $50. Think about that for a second. Halloween costumes began as a ghost witness protection program. Honestly, that's probably the most Halloween sentence I've ever written. Every kid dressed as a vampire today is unknowingly participating in a tradition that stretches back roughly 2,000 years. Granted, little Braden dressed as Spider-Man is probably less concerned about wandering spirits than he is about maximizing candy acquisition efficiency. His mission is simple: cover ground, fill bucket, avoid raisins. Still, the roots are there. Buried beneath every plastic mask, rubber monster face, and bargain bin superhero cape is one of humanity's oldest survival instincts. If the dark scares you, become part of it. There is actually something weirdly human about that. Most cultures looked at fear and decided to fight it. Build a wall, build a temple, invent a ritual, sacrifice a goat. The Celts looked at the same problem and apparently concluded that dressing like a deranged woodland creature was the more practical solution. I kind of admire the creativity. They weren't trying to destroy the spirits. They weren't trying to conquer the darkness. They were basically saying, if we look weird enough, maybe whatever's out there will bother somebody else. Which, come to think of it, remains a surprisingly effective life strategy. As centuries passed, the original meanings faded. Christian traditions mixed with older pagan customs. Immigrants carried those traditions across oceans. Generations added their own twists. Eventually the disguises became costumes, and the costumes became entertainment. The entertainment became Halloween as we know it. But traces of the old belief never really disappeared. Look around any Halloween display. Skeletons, ghosts, demons, monsters, witches, giant spiders. Grinning jack-o'-lanterns staring into the darkness like they know something you don't. If a marketing consultant pitched this holiday from scratch today, they'd probably be escorted out of the conference room. Almost everything we decorate with revolves around things that once genuinely terrified people. Death, the unknown, the things waiting in the woods, the things waiting in the dark, the things waiting after the dark, light-hearted stuff. Yet somehow we turned all of it into lawn decorations and seasonal merchandise. Maybe that's the real magic of Halloween. For one night every year, humanity drags all its oldest fears into the front yard and makes fun of them. We inflate them, we animate them, we put goofy hats on them, we stick LEDs inside them. Then we stand beside them, handing out miniature candy bars. It's civilization's version of coping, a collective shrug aimed directly at mortality. Yeah, we know you're out there. Grab a Snickers and try not to touch anything. That's probably why Halloween survived while so many ancient traditions faded away. At its core, it's still doing exactly what it did 2,000 years ago, helping people negotiate with the dark. The Celts used animal skins. We used 12-foot skeletons from Home Depot, synchronized lighting systems, fog machines, projection effects, Bluetooth speakers, laser projectors, and enough extension cords to make an electrician quietly back away from the conversation. Different tools, same job. Progress is a funny thing. Which means if your front yard currently contains zombies, tombstones, giant spiders, animated werewolves, skeleton armies, flickering lanterns, and enough LEDs to guide commercial aircraft into Daytona Beach, congratulations. You are participating in a tradition older than most governments on Earth. Not bad for a holiday people insist is just about candy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go check on the skeleton army in my yard. One of them has been standing in exactly the same position for 3 days. I'm fairly certain it's a prop. Fairly? Then again, if a 2,000-year-old Celtic spirit finally decided to show up, Hiding among the skeleton army would be a pretty smart move. Nobody would notice, which means the Celts may have been onto something after all.